Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Wildstar. My name is Tuskeh, and in this video we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Now, I haven't done many Wildstar videos recently, because really, I don't know that much about Wildstar. I've played it quite a bit, and I do really like it. However, I don't know it as well as World of Warcraft, so I can't make as many good guides as I can on WoW. That being said, I do have a few ideas for videos, and I have had a few comments asking me to basically talk about whether or not Wildstar is recommendable as a game you should purchase and play because it is subscription based. So with that in mind, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to combine Wildstar Raw, which is a very off and on series I do, where I just post like Wildstar footage just raw without any editing at all, and something like my Hearthstone series where I talk live. I'm talking live right now in case you can't tell. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to quickly show you my character, and then we're going to do a few dailies to show what the level 50 experience is like, the kind of things you can expect to do, things like that. So here I am in my housing plot. I've put probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours into this housing plot. So, I mean, every single thing here, from all of the flowers to the fences and the boxes here, the house itself and inside the house, all of this is customizable. So I can just show you this quickly by turning on the edit mode, and as you can see, I can just move everything and scale everything. It's completely insane, the level of customizability. But that's not what we're here to do. We're here to talk about the gameplay. So, as you can see, I am a Stalker. I am level 50. It took me approximately, I'm not entirely sure, it took me a fair while to hit level 50. There was plenty to do. And I rushed a little bit near the end because I really wanted to get to level 50. And I did a little bit of PvP while I was doing it as well. So I certainly had the full experience, I would say, and it was very enjoyable. I'd definitely say the leveling experience was fun. There was lots of story. There was a kind of an episodic world story that told you more about what's going on. And the gameplay got more and more difficult as you leveled up. Speaking of gameplay, I'm just going to quickly take you over my build at the moment. Now, I am a Stalker, which basically makes me like a rogue in World of Warcraft. And I have a damage-centric build. Now, in this game, you have Assault Power and Support Power. Assault Power is basically attack damage. Support Power is things like, you know, your healing potential and how much damage you can take. So you want Support Power if you're attack, and you want Assault Power if you're melee. Sorry, if you're a damage dealer. So, as you can see, I focus on Brutality. Brutality is Assault Power, which is just more damage. And here I'm using a mixture of blues and greens. This is just like it is in WoW. So, some of these are quite powerful. Some of them are a little bit less so, and I haven't really gemmed them. As you see, these are air and earth sockets. Just like gems in World of Warcraft, they give you bonus stats. I've barely touched them because it's very expensive for me at the moment, and I'm a little bit low on the gold. As you see, I only have 38 of it. Not much in this game. So, I definitely say that it's deep. There's plenty to do, but let's quickly go over my build. Now, this is the action set builder. If you've played Wildstar at all, you probably know about this. This allows you to customize your build. As you can see, I've got quite a few assault abilities here. Some of them I haven't got. And then you've got support, which I don't have anything. And these are kind of tank abilities and stuff like that. And then utility, which is things like stuns, taunts, movement abilities, escapes, things like that. So, I'll quickly take you over my build. Now, first of all, this R ability is my innate ability, and it's my nano skin, which is basically a stealth. I use it to move around, avoid aggro, and you can use it in combat. It puts it on about a 30-second cooldown, and it will most of the time drop aggro, so you can use it as an escape. It's not entirely reliable. I mean, this game is still in the first few months of its release, so it's a little bit buggy sometimes. But the main thing about this is that it increases my damage dealt, increases the damage I take, and makes it so that the first ability I use outside of stealth will crit. Okay, so our first ability is just Shred. It's just a normal ability that's spammable. It's basically my auto attack. Now, I have to actually use the ability to use it, so I can't just right-click on enemies to make myself auto attack. So there's a lot of feedback there. My 2 ability is Impale. It's my main damage source. This deals a big chunk of damage and more if I'm behind a foe. And it costs Suit Energy, as you can see in the bottom here. It costs 35. And eventually I'll run out and I won't be able to use it anymore. So, Suit Power is just like energy in World of Warcraft. You have to think about it a lot. So, definitely very similar if you've played World of Warcraft. There's a lot of other classes that play kind of similarly. Warriors have a kinetic energy, which is basically rage. Spell slingers and medics, when they're healing, have a focus bar, which is basically a mana bar. But there are a few differences, and they do spice things up. Finally, my 3 ability is Collapse, which deals a little bit of damage and pulls enemies within this targeting reticule to myself. I aim it around myself. I can't, like, aim it in the environment. I just do that. And if they're casting while I pull them towards me, it will interrupt them and stun them, which means they will take more damage, which is very important. Now, my number 4 ability is just Concussive Kicks. It just deals extra damage twice to one foe. I just kick. And I have it upgraded so that I can use it twice in a row before it costs energy. So my normal rotation is to open with a 2 with the Impale and then double Concussive Kicks. Something along those lines. Now, number 5 is Punish. It deals heavy physical damage to everything that's basically in front of me. And it regenerates Soup Power. I have it upgraded so that it will always regenerate Soup Power. And if I'm low, it will regenerate Extra Power. So, brilliant. I can only use it after I crit, which is very important, because it synergizes with my Nanoskin. So I open up with an attack from Stealth, which crits, and I have 5 seconds to use my Punish. So I dump all my energy, then use Punish to regain some of my energy. Neutralize is my AoE ability. It deals very heavy damage to everything around me, and each time I use it, it increases its Soup Power cost, so I can spam it and spam it and spam it and spam it, but it costs more and more Soup Power until it just completely drains me. Now, I have this upgraded, that if this actually kills an enemy, the Soup Power cost gets removed in the improved Soup Power. So if I kill something with it, the Soup Power gets reset, and I can just keep spamming. Now, my Q and E are more kind of utility-based. Preparation generates Soup Power over a few seconds and increases my Assault and Support Power, which basically just means I hit harder. I've also got it upgraded that it gives me a little bit of a heal. It's very helpful when I'm trying to kill very tough enemies, and some of the enemies in this game are very tough, so it's important that you have some kind of utility available. And finally, E is Clone. This is something I unlocked via Amps, which I'll go over in a moment, and it just creates a clone of myself. Now, this clone will attack enemies that I attack. It will use the abilities that I use, and if an enemy starts to cast, it will try to interrupt them. It's very helpful, and you can actually use it to drop aggro, which is nice. Then my 9 ability is my Gadget, which is basically a trinket, which is this thing here. It's just an increase to my assault power. I haven't used it that much. Obviously, it will be important in kind of high levels of raiding, but we're not worrying about that. And finally, my 0 ability is my Path ability. Now, when you start Wildstar, you choose a path. You choose either Soldier, Explorer, Settler, or, and I've forgotten the last one, I will have to go and look at it. I'm thinking Soldier, Explorer, Settler, or Scientist. That's the one. And it basically dictates how you do a portion of the game. And you get specific abilities. So if you're an Explorer, you get air brakes. If you're a Scientist, you get to summon groups and make portals. If you're a Settler, you get to build things. And if you're a Soldier, like myself, you get a few abilities you can use back into the fray, which is just a complete heal if you're low outside of combat, which basically replaces having to use food to heal yourself. You've got Bailout, which just is a wipe recovery tool, and a combat supply drop, which you can use in the world to give yourself extra weapons. So that's my build. I'm just going to quickly go over amps. Amps are basically talent points. This looks really complicated, and that's because it is. So basically, you've got these chunks, these kind of triangle sections here, and each of them are a different thing. So you've got Assault, Hybrid, Utility, more Hybrid, Support. So I'm going for Assault. And some of them here are very simple, so it's just like, oh, you use a power point to increase your critical strike chance, or your assault power, or your critical strike severity. And then after that, they get interesting and they give you passive bonuses. So when I'm above 70% health, I have more brutality. When I crit enemies, they deal extra damage when they're below 25% health. And when I hit from behind, I gain extra assault power. Things like that. And then these higher end ones, they always have an ability here. As you can see, this one unlocks the clone ability, which is this one that I showed you earlier. So I actually unlocked this ability through amps. So it's important that you keep an eye on your amps. This is kind of all thrown together. It's a bit of a mishmash as I leveled up. And as you can see, I can't actually afford to buy an amp reset because it's very expensive. So definitely be careful with that. So, I've ranted on about my build long enough, I think. It's time to go and do some dailies. Before I do so, though, I'm going to go to my bounty board. This comes with every single house, and you can use it to get a bonus. So, we will use the 5% questing and PvE bonus, so we get a little bit more money and experience. Now, experience does still matter at the end game. I'm just going to teleport out of the house and go to my main capital, Ilium, here. Experience does still matter. If you can see at the bottom here, I've got EP. This is Elder Points. Now, every time you level up, once you're level 50, you gain an Elder Gem, which is currency for endgame everything. So as you can see, I've got 81 Elder Gems here. 81 isn't that much. You're going to need more than 100 to start buying things. So there's definitely a lot to do. Definitely a lot to do. And as you can see, I'm using a hoverboard here. And sprinting. You can sprint and you can double jump with all of your mounts. So we're just going to move around Ilium here, and we're going to go and talk to this person. This person here. Now, this takes me to the Northern Wastes, which is a daily hub. There are currently 2 daily hubs. One has a few group quests, one does not. We're going to go to the one that doesn't, so that we can just show the daily quest experience. The daily quest experience will probably take an hour to 2 hours. I'm not going to go through it all, I'm just going to show you a little bit of it. So here we are. As you can see, I've done approximately half of this zone. I kind of suck in that regard, because I haven't had yet the chance to do this entire daily questing area, because I've been quite busy with things like videos in real life. This half of the map here is dedicated to the Exiles, which is the other faction, so I probably haven't missed that much. So this quest mark here is just the indicator of quests. So we're just going to go through and do these. If you want to read them, you can pause the video, but they're not particularly interesting. It's just like a group of explorers has gone missing. We need you to get things up and running. We need you to kill things. And this tactical uplink here is for my path. It gives me a specific path quest line. Just that daily quest, really. So we've picked up our dailies. I'm just going to drop these couple of things here. Okay. So now we're just going to go and we're going to start killing things. So this is a Dominion camp that has been destroyed, and we're going to go and deal with it. So as you can see, I'm going to start putting things back together. I can stealth past these augmented dudes. These augmented dudes are basically just people that have been taken over by the Elden. The Elden are a hyper-advanced race that vanished, and their old constructs have started augmenting people and making them all super evil. So we're just going to kill a couple of these. So I'm going to open up with my Impale, do some damage to this guy, dump all of my power, use Punish to build it back up, and then pop concussive kicks. And as they start using abilities, I'm going to interrupt them. Use my auto attack to kill that second guy. I crit again, use another Punish, and then just clear that guy down. So as you can see, I can kill things pretty fast. It's not really that difficult. It can get very, very tricky when you aggro more than one pack at a time, especially when you deal with some tougher enemies like primes. Primes are enemies that glow red, and they are very, very tough. So you can very easily get your ass handed to you by them. So I'm just going to interrupt this guy again, use Punish, and another Impale. So as you can see, I can do this without really even going through my shield. Every class has a shield. Some classes interact with their shields a little bit better than others. My shield just kind of exists to help me a little bit. So, whoa, just going to avoid that. I didn't have my stun available there. It has got quite the cooldown, so I have to be a bit careful. So we're just gathering supplies, going to save some of these explorers and repair the camp and kill things. Okay, so this is something a bit different. So when I click on this guy, I have to do a little kind of mini game here. This arrow is going to go from the left to the right, and I have to hit the key at the precise time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6. If you bugger this up, and I will bugger it up on purpose next time, then either something will happen, or you will just flat out fail the objective. So for instance, that explorer was starting to die from hypothermia, and if I failed that, then he would have died, and it wouldn't have counted for the quest. But sometimes it's like you want to hack a terminal or something, and if you fail that, it just like explodes and you take damage or get knocked down, but it will still count towards the quest, so it doesn't punish you too badly. So as you can see, I'm just going to use my preparation to get back up. Oh, I accidentally clicked on the explorer, and I fucked that up. I just fucked that up by accident. So there you go. There you go. That's what happens if you bugger it up there. The guy just dies. So we will continue down here, and we will start opening on these guys. I've also got a small passive from a pair of from my weapons actually that change it so that whenever I crit, I have a chance to stun, and if I stun using it, then it goes on cooldown for 30 seconds. So normally whenever I open with a stun, whenever I open with a crit even, it'll stun them, so that can be very helpful. I have done a bit of PvP. Stalkers are very good in PvP, I've noticed. A lot of people say they aren't, but Stalkers are the only class that can just upfront all of their damage like this. I can just drop all of my energy, and immediately I'm doing all of the AoE damage my class is capable of doing. And I've used all of my energy and killed them all. But in PvP, you would, for instance, jump in against a single person and then start bursting out, and you'd use all of your energy, and then you would back off and start regenerating energy. And any time that you spend not fighting while you're low on energy is good for you. So I buggered that one up, and I don't have my crit available. Thankfully, I just crit there. So I'm just going to dump all of my energy and back out. So you see, as I'm backing out, I'm regaining energy. We're not fighting, so this is putting me at an advantage because I can immediately start bursting down again. There we go. Nice and easy. So really, the main topic of this video is Wildstar worth playing? Is it worth the subscription fee? And is it worth going on once you've hit level 50? So it's a bit of a tricky question because Wildstar is a very traditional MMO. For a lot of people, if you don't like MMOs, Wildstar is not going to convince you. It's just not, because it's got a lot of the normal MMO tropes. You've got very generic quests, you've got cut and paste kind of objectives, you know, as you can see right now, kill, collect, repair, things like that. The combat system is very different, and that's what sets it apart. And really, the game is going to be made or broken for you on the combat system. If you can't get into the combat system, then you're not going to enjoy the game. You're just not going to. The combat system is everything. The telegraph system, which changes depending on what enemy you're facing, and you get some very inventive telegraphs. That's the real meat of the game right there. And really, that's the real meat of any MMO. So if you don't like this style of playing, then it's really not going to appeal to you, which is a shame, because Wildstar's got a lot going for it. There's a lot of customizability that I haven't shown you. For instance, I'm just going to quickly stealth, actually, so I don't get jumped by something. And then open my crafting window. So I've done quite a bit of crafting. I've got to the max level of crafting, which is expert. Didn't take that long. It is very expensive, though, so just keep that in mind. So I'm a weaponsmith, so I make things like claws and great swords and guns. So this is how you would make a weapon. So, for instance, if I wanted to make these serviceable Galactium fangs, I would need the chunks, some viscosity flux, and a power core. Now, this flux and the power core you can buy from, like, just a vendor, but you can get more powerful power cores, which increase the power of the weapon, from places like the auction house or players that can create them with a different profession. So if I were to load this schematic, I'm not actually at a crafting station at the moment, so I can't show you it, but actually I can show you it, and I'm going to. Because it's a good chance to tell you about the teleport system. So in the bottom right here, you see I've got these 3 teleports here. One of them is a transmat, which is basically like a Hearthstone. You choose where to bind yourself to. I've chosen the main city. This third one here takes you to your home city and has got like a 10-hour cooldown. And this last one, with a 20-minute cooldown, takes you to your house. And what's nice about it is that it will save your location. So when I go, I'm going to go back to my house now, and if I then jump back through the teleporter, I will reappear directly here, which is very nice. So I don't want to show you my house too quickly, because that could be a whole video. Here I've got a mining station, and in the background I've got a garden I can use to grow plants and sell them, because they're helpful for a lot of professions. Here I've got a little Elden statue, which if I use it gives me a buff, which increases my regeneration. But more importantly, here I have a crafting station that I cannot use because it has not been repaired. So I just need to do that quickly. So crafting kiosk, it needs repair. You just repair it for a gold. So it's this way you have to keep things up and running. It's the same with the mining node and the garden and the statue as well. You have to repair them like every week or so. It costs a very small amount. Okay, so now we're at a crafting station. We will go to the schematic. And here in the background, you can actually see a little bit better some of the ways that you can change things. So, for instance, if I were to make this would be a random stat. And in these two, I could also put other stats, like Brutality, which would increase my attack power, Moxie, which should increase my chance to strike through shields, all kinds of different things. You could put Crit Strike, Mana Regeneration, Deflect Chance, which is basically the chance that your shield has to completely absorb attacks. So tank stats, assault stats, things like that. So you can completely customize your crafting. And I just wonder, is there anything I can make at the moment? Probably not, because I need flux and power cores. Bit of a shame I can't show you that right now, but maybe I'll do so in the future. So it's very customizable. And in addition, you've also got costume sets, which let you change your costume, which is just awesome. And there's a whole die system behind that. You can change exactly what your costume looks like. You can even, it's basically transmogrification. You can transmog into armor pieces that you can't use, like heavy and light armor. I use medium armor, just like rogues do. So it's like a rogue being able to transmog into heavy armor or cloth. So that's very cool. Your mount also has customization. If I just find that here. So here are my mounts. So here's my Uniblade mount. As you can see, I've got a few things on the left and the right and on the back. So you can customize what your mounts look like. Not quite as in-depth as I would have liked. I would have liked to have been able to dye parts of it, maybe remove parts of it. Definitely something they could upgrade there. But for what it stands, it's pretty cool. I nearly aggroed those things. So there's a lot of customization in this game. And of course, you can also completely customize how you play with this action set thing. This isn't by any means the only way to play the Stalker. There's loads and loads of ways of doing it. And of course, each one of these is a tier that I've upgraded. So you can customize yourself and be quite unique in how you play. Next, we're going to show you the communicator. This is your comm link. I've just completed a quest, and I can hand in this quest right now. A lot of the times in WoW, you'll see that they'll find ways of doing this where it will just be like the person contacts you with like magic, or they will, or you'll hand in the quest to yourself and be like, oh, I did a good job here. But really, with this comm link, because it's of its nature, it's a sci-fi game, you can just call the people. People want you to do something, they will call you on your comm link, and you will get it down here in the corner or in the middle of your screen, and it'll be like, you have a call, and you accept it, and someone will be like, oh, I need you to come to this camp, or I need you to go and do this or that. So definitely a good use of the system there. And as you can see there, I just dodged rolled. It's not something that I've done very much thus far, but you can actually dodge roll around to avoid things, which is very helpful. So I'm just going to quickly kill this group because it will get in the way of the next quest objective. And then I'm going to do a holdout, which is a soldier-specific thing a lot of the time, but it also comes into questing quite a lot. Now, a holdout is basically just a way of throwing a whole bunch of enemies at you. So we're just going to do this. We've used this, and now it's time for a holdout. So we're going to have to fight against 5 waves of enemies. Each one will get a little bit harder until we fight a little boss. So this one is only 3. I'm just going to start spamming my abilities here. Get out of their AoEs. As you can see, these guys don't have much health. There's only 3 of them. And if other players come along, this is a public event, so if another player on this quest came along and started it as well, they would get thrown into this holdout with me. It would count for them, and the holdout would actually get harder. So you can have a lot of players to the point where it gets a little bit crazy. And, whoops, lots of telegraphs there, so got to be a bit careful. As you can probably hear in the background, you get double kills, triple kills, super kills, mega kills, ultra kills, things like that. And uber kills if you kill like 12 enemies at once, which is pretty cool. So I'm just going to continue to AoE here. This isn't too hard of a holdout. Stab you. So we're on Rave 3 of 5, which is quite good. And what's also good about the combat system in this game is that enemies are shared. So for instance, if I were looking for a boss for a quest, a named mob or something like the leader of a camp, and someone was already halfway through killing it, I could jump in and help them kill it, and it would count. I would get full loot rewards, I would get full experience, and it would count for the quest, even if they were in exile. I'm pretty sure even if they were in exile. Okay, so here's the boss. Now, this is a different enemy type, which means that he has, as you can see, different kinds of telegraphs. I'm just going to leave this guy alive for a little while. I'm just going to auto-attack him for a little bit, just so I can show you some of the different kinds of telegraphs. Now, this is an Elden robot, so he will do different things. He's got this dash. As you can see, the telegraph kind of charges up to show you the cast time, which is very helpful, so you don't have to actually look too much at his cast times. Sometimes they'll have things like buffs that will won't have a telegraph but have a cast time. And of course, each one of these, if I interrupt him while he does the telegraph, it will put him into a moment of vulnerability, which means he'll take 50% extra damage while he's stunned. So, very good. So I've stunned him again with my crit there. And I'm just going to wait. He's got another telegraph, which is really cool. Alright, so there's the slam. As you can see... Ow, that one actually hit me. Didn't do that much damage, but as you can see, it kind of radiated out from him. You have to know how the telegraphs work to really avoid things like that, because sometimes they can very much take you by surprise, which can be quite annoying if you don't know it's coming, but you really have to learn the enemies. So you fight a lot of Elden robots like this, and they'll have similar telegraphs each time. So you can say, oh, it's one of these dudes, and then you'll know what to expect. So when they do the acrobatic slam, you'll know, okay, it has other telegraphs that radiate out from it, so you can avoid it. So I finished that, and next we're going to go up this cliff to speak to someone called Farlow Grey. But say you didn't know he was up here, and you'll be like, oh, well, how am I supposed to find this guy? Well, first of all, you've got this on the minimap here, which isn't that helpful, and it's also on the map here. and it kind of shows you where he is. So that would be good. But say you just wanted to find out immediately, you can just click on it, and it will point you in that direction, which is very helpful, very, very helpful indeed, for finding things. Because it's a new MMO, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it will point you in the wrong direction. Sometimes, like, if you're trying to find things to kill and there aren't that many, then it will just point you in an area. So as you can see, it's still pointing me here. And then it will point at the ground, which is a way of signifying, hey, you're here. So I'm just going to search the snowbound, and he will pop up. There he is. So this is a little chewer dude, and he's going to run away. Okay, so we've finished that, and next we have to go and do a few more things. Although actually I think that would be a good place to end at this point, because we've been going for a while now, and really all of the dailies are like this. It's interesting because you have to make up your mind for yourself. This isn't by any means the only thing you can do. You can also do PvP, and you can also get into adventures and dungeons. Adventures are basically scenarios from World of Warcraft. They're not that hard, and they have a normal and a veteran mode. Veteran mode is basically heroic difficulty. And then you've got 5-man dungeons, and these dungeons are hard. They are like challenge mode hard. Well, I wouldn't say challenge mode hard, but they're very difficult. Like, to the point where most pugs probably won't be able to complete them unless they're quite lucky. And I haven't actually ever been able to finish a dungeon, so take that for what you will. The dungeons are very challenging. If you want a good challenge with some people, join a guild and do it with Vent or Mumble, and that's very good. It's got a few problems, like loot is tied to performance, so if someone buggers up, then it's very likely that the group will just disband, which is a little bit of a bad design philosophy in my opinion, and they do look like they're going to be changing that, so that's helpful. And I may get into dungeons in the future, but at the moment that's what my Wildstar experience is. Lots of dailies, and most of them are this kind of daily where it's kill, craft, collect, but there are also crafting dailies that basically have you go to old zones that you've been to and go to crafting boards there, where they'll say like, okay, make 3 or so of this weapon or this weapon or this weapon, and then in return you get crafting vouchers, which are an end game currency which you can use to unlock more crafting resources, schematics for very powerful items, things like that. So I'm actually using a pair of claws that I made for myself using crafting dailies as the resource to collect the currency. So there's certainly a lot to do. The combat is very important. If you can't get into the combat, then chances are you can't get into Wildstar. I haven't really discussed its sense of humor. Its sense of humor is very, very good, and it's something that you should definitely consider, because the game has got a magnificent sense of humor. The story is pretty good. It did have me hooked after about level 35, 40. It does take time to get going, and there are some points where things just don't work out as well as I'd like to. There's the whole mystery behind what happened to the Elden, and I'm not going to spoil it. Of course, I would never spoil it, but I know what happened to the Elden. It is revealed, and it's a little bit disappointing. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of it, but hey, it's still a very early MMO, and that's something to keep in mind, that Wildstar is a fresh MMO. It's difficult, but also important to compare it to World of Warcraft, because it is similar to World of Warcraft, and it is competing with World of Warcraft directly. So I would say in comparison to World of Warcraft, it's got a great sense of humor, it's got a great art style, it's got pretty good quests, perhaps not as coherent as WoW's questing is, but WoW has had a much longer to do its questing. And the most important thing I would say is that it's still buggy. There are still bugs here and there, they are being fixed. Sometimes the servers will crash, sometimes you'll have problems. If you do want to play Wildstar, make sure you follow Wildstar on Twitter, if you can, if you have a Twitter account, because there they will post a lot of news about bug fixes, about problems they're having, because recently they got DDoS, which is a terrible shame, and it was completely malicious by whoever did it. If you did it, you're a terrible person. But although something tells me if you did it, you're not watching this video. But yes, like I said, it's a new MMO, so expect the normal bugs, expect things to not work, expect quests to occasionally break. But for what it's worth, I see a lot of potential in this game. I can recommend it if you can see yourself getting into the combat, and if you can see yourself getting hooked in a sci-fi MMO. It is sci-fi, it's got all the normal sci-fi tropes, it's got a magnificent sense of humor, it's so funny at times, it can be hilarious, so tongue-in-cheek, and definitely worth it, I would say, if you can get into the combat And if you can look past its flaws, and there are flaws, then it's a very enjoyable game. PvP as well, I have barely mentioned, is pretty balanced, it's pretty fair, and pretty fun, except for Stalker tanks. They're ridiculous. I'll talk about why in some other video. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it was helpful and informative. If you have any questions about Wildstar, make sure you throw them in the comments, or you can contact me using the links in the description. Make sure you subscribe to catch videos like this as soon as they come out. Throw me as much feedback as you can or want. I'm always after feedback. Let me know what you think. Again, thank you very much for watching, and I wish you the best of luck with your endeavours on Nexus.